I was assaulted by another police officer. They cornered me while I was completing some reports and drew their firearm, shoved it in my face.
That's 0 to 90.
Nobody said anything or did anything. The main person, he stated he couldn't remember if he drew a gun and shoved it in my face. The situation was traumatic. I can close my eyes to this day and still see and smell and just everything.
This is the wildest overreaction I've ever heard in my entire life.
Good cop, bad cop. You decide.
Our next caller is a cop who made a joke and another cop pulled a gun on him. We're going to get to the bottom of this crazy story.
Alex Murphy, welcome to the Hardly Legal Show. As we understand it, you're a police officer that's been in some pretty unfair situations involving your coworker and the department. Why don't you start from the top and tell us what you got going on?
Hey, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to kind of hear my situation. And I'll jump right into it.
Yeah.
So quick background on me. I joined the police department back in 2009. Was employed by the police department, had raving yearly reviews, no issues, no concerns whatsoever. Until about 2017, August of 2017, I was assaulted by another police officer. They cornered me while I was completing some reports. They didn't like a comment that I made and drew their firearm.
Whoa!
That's 0 to 90.
All right, let's.
Yeah.
I know there's
At
more
the
story here.
office.
Let's just stop right here. Yeah, okay. So walk me through exactly what happened.
What the heck was that comment, dude?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Oh, the comment?
You don't have to say
You
it.
don't have to say it.
I
but
want to
you know
hear. If you can, don't tell me he doesn't have to say it. Hey, you have to say it.
I really want to know, sure. So he was walking by me and he was...
Nice
he had
ass.
I'm sorry, what?
I guess that you said nice ass. No, I'm just joking.
No. He was putting a firearm. He had a handgun, his backup handgun. He was putting it in his pocket. I had not seen it before, and so I commented and said, "Well, that's a nice little pea shooter you got there."
It's funny.
And the next thing I know is he's pulled the gun out, shoved it in my face, and told me to stare down the barrel. And does it look so small now? And he was clearly not comfortable with the comment that I made.
I think he wasn't comfortable with the size of his dick either. It
Yeah.
sounds like
Holy
Sigmund
crap.
Freud could
Wow.
break this apart very effectively.
this is the wildest overreaction I've ever heard in my entire life.
And
So
that man is a police officer?
Yeah,
That's not great.
Was it
No.
was it a small gun though? Was it like a 380? Or...
I think it was. Yeah, it was a little guy. It wasn't even a 9mm. I think it was almost like a little 308 or something.
Still
Not-
scary.
Noisy
know.
cricket, yeah.
Jeez.
I personally don't like that we're size shaming on guns right now. I think the issue is that they can all kill you pretty much.
They can.
Super
So
true.
wait, he shoves it in your face. What's your reaction?
I was quite shocked. The first thought that went through my mind was, oh, this is how a workplace shooting starts. I'm going to be the victim, number one victim or first victim of a workplace shooting. I thought
That's
it was
dark.
This is like in the police department? Where was this happening? Like in the
Yes.
office?
Yeah, it was in the police station.
Were
So
there
we
other
all-
officers there?
Were there other cops around?
There were actually, and so I went to our internal affairs division and filed a complaint because I just could not.
Well, no,
I
wait,
just-
back up. What did the other cops do when he
Yeah,
pulled the
I
gun?
was
Did
saying,
everyone
hey,
pull their guns? Was
What
it a
did the
giant?
other crime-fighting
Spider-Man?
cops do when a
Giant-
crime was committed?
It's like
It's just the spider.
You would
Yeah,
think,
say it.
you would think, but as you'll come to learn, there was definitely a culture. There is a culture within the department that certain things, I guess, are tolerated and accepted, and so nobody said anything or did anything. The comment was made. It was very brief, maybe 10 seconds at most, and then he walked out the door.
No one said anything.
No, not
How-
at that time.
How often are guns pulled in the workplace?
is
that you're
this a standard
Yeah.
occurrence?
No, I've never, in my almost 10 years of being in law enforcement, have ever heard of or seen anything like that happen before. It was completely unacceptable, unprofessional. By the law, it's an aggravated assault.
Of course.
To threaten
Yes.
somebody in that manner.
I'm sorry this
So-
happened to you, and I can't imagine how that felt in that moment. Is there a world in which he thought this was just a playful joke and would be taken as such?
Wow.
Or was this really done with hostility?
I think it was a combination of both. I mean, I think he did it just because he was offended by the comment that I made, which I don't know if any of you have friends or maybe former law enforcement. But we cops are known for having a unique sense of humor,
Yeah.
and so whether that was why he did it, I didn't take it as a joke
Yes.
because there's certain things. I mean, I say, what's the number one way to trigger a cop is you point a gun at them. You know, I mean, that's just how,
I mean,
My one of my fears
Yeah.
as well.
yeah. As
Likewise.
non cops, we also number one rule:
Allergic to
don't
bullets.
point a gun at
Yeah.
someone else. I mean, I'll tell you the first rule of gun ownership is don't point the barrel at anything you don't want to destroy. So whether you're a cop or not,
So-
many wrongs.
Specifically, a cop should know that rule. You go through
Right.
the training a lot.
I can also understand you're right, I'm a stand-up comedian, and there are jokes that we make with each other that explained to an outsider would seem how, that's a toxic workplace. How you could put it, nothing life or death that you experienced, and I'm very sorry for that. But there were things I'd brush off where I sounded like I was defending a domestic abuser. Like, no, we talk like that with
that's
each other.
normal.
And I can imagine cops have some shorthand with each other that would seem insane to us. But I believe you when you're saying this crosses every line.
Yeah, we're like
yeah,
5
yeah.
or 6 minutes into this call, and I have zero doubts that you're the good guy. in
Yes.
this call.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry you are a victim. I'm sorry that how
Well,
I
let me
said-
take the other side of this. You
Yeah.
commented about the guy. No, I'm kidding. We're on your side.
I'll take the other side of this. Are you like too good at your job and everyone hates you?
Yeah,
Are you
are
like the
you-
Hermione Granger of your office?
Yeah, you're the really good cop that fills out the paperwork, aren't you?
That's me. That was me.
We knew it.
I just can't understand how like that behavior would be not just justified by the perpetrator, but that everyone around would say. Because obviously cops take the side of cops. There's a culture of that. But like, why
You're
would-
a cop,
That's what I'm saying.
but you're
Yeah.
also a cop.
They're like the only thing
Okay.
that can stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Well, the whole room is
Bad
good
guns.
guys with guns.
It's the job. It's literally what you're there for.
Okay, Alex. So you've gone to Internal Affairs, and what do they do about this? These are the watchdogs within the department meant to police the police.
So they went ahead and interviewed the individual. They also interviewed the fellow officers that were in the room at the time. And keep in mind the union. We have a police union here. All these individuals consulted with our union representative
Right.
prior to sitting down and partaking in these interviews. And these interviews, this is kind of where we're getting into the legal side of things. These interviews are Garrity admonished. I don't know if any of you legalese
Tell us what that means.
The best way to explain it is that in police investigations, internal affairs investigations, you are admonished. You're given a written admonishment which states you shall answer. You cannot refuse to answer. You can't plead the fifth.
Okay.
And so, but by being compelled to answer, you also are told that whatever you state, whatever answers you give, cannot be used against you in a criminal
So this is
case.
internal only. Everyone has to answer every question.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So it's a double-edged sword in that way. So you have to give an answer, but whatever you say can't be used against you in a criminal court. So
You learn something every day. Keep going.
Interesting.
So all the individuals were interviewed, and they all had the exact same statement, which said that they all said that they couldn't remember. Specifically, the main person in all this, he stated he couldn't remember if he drew a gun and shoved it in my face.
Hold on. So his response wasn't, "This hotel doesn't smell like poop." His response was, "The hotel has a great pool."
Yeah, exactly. That was the game that he played, because you got to understand that if any one of these individuals said that they saw what happened, if they attest to my statement, then the perpetrator is immediately fired.
Right.
I mean,
As he
okay?
should be.
And if they say no, it didn't happen, and it's later proven that it did happen, then they're fired for integrity.
I just want to say, like, this is crazy. And like, some people, we post these videos on YouTube and we get all kinds of comments. We get people that are like far left, far right. We get some people that love cops, hate cops. Right. And
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here listening to this. I'm like, man, if you hated cops, how are you processing this conversation? Because it's like,
Yeah.
you hate cops. You're like, yeah, cop pulled a gun on a cop. I love it. But then you're like, yeah, all the other cops lied to protect the bad cop. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's Inception where I don't even know how people on the right or left would process this. This just makes me
The
sad.
cop of my cop is my cop.
Okay, so now you've got a bunch of guys feigning ignorance or memory lapses over what would be probably an
Which is the
extremely
worst-
memorable.
a
It's the
notable
worst
event.
answer. It's the most obvious lie of an answer.
Yeah.
If you see a gun pulled on someone, you remember. And if you don't see it, you go, yeah, that didn't
Okay,
happen.
are there not
If someone said, did you see
cameras?
someone whip out their dick on the subway today? I wouldn't be like, I don't recall. You'd be like, yeah, that's going to burn in my head.
It's even worse than that.
Yeah,
Did
it's
you
worse.
whip out your dick on the subway that day? And it's like, that day? hard. It's a busy day. I
there's a
can't
lot of
keep track
days.
of my dick every day on
I'm
the
riding
subway.
the subway, twice a day.
Here's my theory: is pea shooter a racial slur for cops? Is that like the? Is that the subtext?
what?
Of this? Is pea shooter
Yeah, does
like
that
a slur for your people?
specifically triggering?
Where like you cross some line
really.
with that word?
And I mean, I don't know if you all have seen the movie Napoleon Dynamite.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Yes.
you know how Kip talks in there. La Fonda is the best thing that has ever happened to me.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
that was
Yeah,
really
good
solid.
job.
Really
That was
good.
Can you
that
do the
was
rest of the
voice.
call in that voice?
Not good try. But that was just the comment I made. I just, as he walked by, I just said, "Oh, that's a cute little pea shooter you got there." Just like that.
Yeah, that's
Very
delightful.
nonchalant, just-
That's funny as heck.
That sounds great. You sound like an amazing
I thought-
coworker.
I did
Bill-
not know.
Personality
Also, I
hire.
did not know that Napoleon Dynamite was a cult classic among our boys in blue.
Yes.
Oh, it absolutely is. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, this sounds less like Napoleon Dynamite than The Town, where all the cops are on each other with the back the blue.
Golly,
Are
the
there-
Departed in here.
There were
Yeah.
no cameras or anything in the.
No, at that location there weren't any. So,
Well, hey, other
So
cops
anyway.
listen to this show. Wear your body cam while doing paperwork.
Yeah, my
apparently.
God. Apparently.
I wanna
well,
know-
I was
I know-
unarmed at the time.
I know we
figured.
have cops
They
that are
should have that body cam
subscribers.
on.
I know we have cops that are subscribers. I actually want to hear from other law enforcement because like I don't just want to hear from internet trolls. Like jump in the comment section. Like if you're in law enforcement or you have family in law enforcement, like how does this make you feel? Because I'm angry. I think that my first emotion is angry.
Very disappointed that that's something that's going on.
Yeah.
Because you want to assume the best, and like the news doesn't do a great job of assuming the best a lot of the times, but you just want to assume that there's good things happening.
What was the result of this this internal investigation?
So the investigator came to me and said, "Okay, we all know that what you said happened because nobody would forget it. You know what I mean?"
And no one denied it. Right.
Right.
Yeah. And the fact that they're playing this game, there really is nothing we can do. And, my background is not in law enforcement. My background actually, I went to college, was working in the corporate field. I have a background in accounting and finance. I got my master's degree. Like I don't think you're cut out
to be a cop. I'm sorry. This sounds
Yeah.
like the wrong background.
Anyone hiring?
So I was like, I took it, I obviously took it very, very personal, as I should, as anybody should. I mean, what happened to me was inexcusable. And now you've got somebody within the department who's not only engaging in this activity, but, this was an opportunity for him to simply admit and maybe apologize, and then we can move past that. But the fact that my integrity was questioned by these individuals, I could not tolerate that. And so prior to joining the department, I actually worked for the FBI. I worked undercover within the FBI, DOJ, and I knew that there were other options for law enforcement professionals to seek. There's other ways you can go outside the department. And so ultimately what I decided to do was I decided to escalate the matter to a criminal investigation.
Good.
And I had the county attorney's office come in and completely take over and conduct interviews and did a very comprehensive investigation. And in doing so, an eyewitness was located who, unbeknownst to me, was in the room at the time and saw everything go down.
A civilian?
No, it was a fellow officer. I honestly didn't know he was there. I won't go bore you with all the details, but the room that this happened was such where people could walk in and walk out, and where I was sitting, I wouldn't know that they had walked in or walked out.
Okay.
So
You said you pursued criminal action, right?
I did, yeah. And so in doing so, it really elevated things to a different level that
Yeah.
I wanted to be elevated that way, but it was like I just couldn't imagine just let bygones be bygones.
Well, that's a
This
good
guy-
You did
question.
the right thing.
What did you want? Just an apology and an acknowledgement that this happened originally?
Yeah, I would have been completely fine with that. I would have been fine if he just said, "Hey, I did a dumb, boneheaded thing, and I'm sorry." But at this point, because of the situation, and let me just kind of backtrack just a little bit. As far as, remember I mentioned to you the admonishment that you're given, the Garrity admonishment?
Yeah.
Part of that admonishment states that you are not permitted to discuss the investigation with anybody other than your spouse or a member of the clergy. Now, I want for you all to imagine.
I'm
you're just sitting
ordained, so we're good.
there- I'm sorry, what?
I'm ordained.
Likewise.
Yeah, okay. No. But this is back in 2017. This is over and done with. But at the time, the situation that I just described to you was traumatic, to say the least. And I started experiencing a lot of telltale symptoms I didn't know it at the time of PTSD.
Yeah.
I started dreaming about, the situation. I can close my eyes
Oh.
to this day and still see and smell and just everything. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but the department really went out of their way to disable me from being able to speak to a qualified mental health professional about what was happening and to be, receive even like therapy for it. I was only allowed to talk about it, like I said, with my spouse and a member of the clergy. So, because of the criminal investigation, the entire investigation spanned almost a year before finally they got to the bottom of it and they were able to corroborate my allegation. And that individual was permitted to resign in lieu of being fired.
Okay, good. Congrats.
Wow.
Immediately following, or on the 1 year anniversary of the incident, I penned a Facebook post, a Facebook like blog. It was titled "My Side," and in it, I went through in very meticulous detail, and I laid out exactly what happened the night of my assault. Because for the last year, rumors had been swirling. People, I mean, I had been pretty much outcast from my fellow officers and was just
Their
treated
story, they were saying you overreated, you got a cop
oh
fired.
yeah,
and
people
then-
were minimizing it. They didn't even, some people thought that it didn't even happen, that I just made it up. There's just all sorts of just slander.
crazy.
So what happened after
So-
that Facebook post?
Well, so just to qualify the post, what I did was I was very careful not to disclose anything about the department, anything specific within the department. Remember that Garrity admonishment.
Sure.
Wanted to make sure that I didn't, talk about people that maybe I shouldn't. So what I did was I requested a public records copy of the criminal investigation. And so I referred to that investigation and the information within it in writing my Facebook post. So I think maybe you can all understand why I did that, so that
Yeah.
the department couldn't argue that I was, disclosing secret information or whatnot. Like I said, my background's in the FBI, so I know a thing or two about keeping top secret things top secret. So, sure.
What happened next that you're trying to get help with?
The fallout was pretty quick. I was written up for the Facebook posts. I was written up for just about everything and anything. I went from being stellar cop, wonder cop, to being just a piece of crap in their eyes. And so everything accumulated with a call for service that I went to try to take care of an individual who was passed out in a car. Turned out he was wanted 3 times, had drugs in his system, was driving a stolen car. He grabbed a hold of me, pulled me into the car, put the car in reverse, slammed it in the back of my car, tried to push my car out of the way. It was a fight for my life.
Wow.
And after that incident that I decided to resign from the department.
Okay.
The department reached out to 50 news agencies, international news agencies, CNN, MSNBC, and provided all of my internal investigations, copies of pretty much my entire personnel record. My wife and I began receiving death threats from internet trolls. Our family started receiving
Holy cow.
death threats. It became a very, very, very tumultuous situation. This was back in 2019. Okay. The matter resolved. I left law enforcement profession for good, and I'm no longer working in that space. Police department reached out to the Department of Justice and provided them, like I said, all those internal reports. And the Department of Justice, 5 years after the fact, reached out to the county attorney's office and assembled a grand jury. And the county attorney presented that incident to the grand jury and secured a felony indictment against me.
Wow. Over
And-
over the incident where the guy dragged you into the car, the criminal
Yes,
who was wanted
yes,
in the stolen
yep.
car, smashed
Yep.
your car and tried to kill you.
Do you have body cam of that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's body cam footage of it all. So, my question, I guess, is this: I am very, very certain, and I'll get to the heart of it all. I'm very certain this matter trial is set for next week or week after. I'm quite certain this matter, once all the facts are finally laid out there, I'll be vindicated 100%. My use of force was more than
I mean, you
just-
have an attorney for the criminal side of this,
I
right?
do. I do.
Okay.
do.
Okay.
So,
Jesus.
my question to you all is this: looking back at this mess, who, if anybody, could be held liable? The way I see it, the department could be held liable for slander, or I don't know if it's slander or libel. I'm not sure of the two. As far as misrepresenting the facts to the public and to the media, Then I look at the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice, when they did their investigation,
Yeah. I'll
they
just jump in real
overlooked-
quick. Have you talked
Yeah.
to an attorney about the civil side of your claims here yet?
I'm talking to 4 of them right now.
Okay.
So that's kind
Good.
of
To be clear,
this is
too.
where I'm at. So and then finally,
When you said 4 of them
know-
right now, did you mean us or did you
Because there's
mean...
only 2 attorneys
Yeah,
here.
because we're
Oh, 2. I'm sorry.
I was like, just to make sure.
That's what I'm talking to.
We do jokes on stage.
So we're looking, just to make sure I'm going to crystallize where we're at. You're looking at all of this is the result of what I would say compounding errors by, unfortunately, your brothers in blue, not only the first officer who committed the assault, but then the department covering it up, and then the department deciding that once you decided to be open about what was happening, that they wanted to then bury you as much as they could when you were in the line of duty doing what you needed to do, to the point where now you're about to go to a federal trial over having saved your own life from that thrice layered criminal with the stolen car, and you want to know what is it that you can do to try and rectify at a minimum some of the things that have happened.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
That summarizes it. It's a whistleblower violation, I think, under Arizona or under state law, at the very least. But how do you where do you start with that?
I'd like to jump in actually, because this is very unique. Sometimes we do full analysis and it helps the general public, right? Your case is very fringe, right? It's very unique. So I actually, what I'd like to do, I'm speaking a little bit for
Go ahead.
Bill,
Yeah,
so
jump in
sometimes
there.
I overstep. Sometimes we get people that call in and they're assholes, and we can talk to them for a little bit, and we realize they're not the good guy. I have zero question in my heart at all that not only are you the good guy, but your fellow officers failed you, and I think that we want to take this offline and help you pursue, see what we can do for you.
Okay.
And
We don't
just-
offer to follow up with everyone, but we want to keep going after this call and make sure that justice is served for you, because it hasn't so far. And I also want to say, I'm sorry you're going through what you're going through on the criminal side. You will be found innocent, and let that take its course.
And it's going to be a core part of what happens, right? Once you're cleared of this and you kind of get behind the federal, kind of turnabout that they've got you going in right now, there's a couple of different things that could come into play. One, retaliation. So that's kind of the other side of the coin of whistleblower, is that you as an employee, you cannot be there could be no consequential measures that come to you as a result of speaking about an employer's illegal actions.
Yeah.
So the fact that they've gone after you, the Garrity warning does have power. It doesn't have that much power.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'd give Garrity warnings to people, and then all of a sudden, no one's responsible for what's going on. But there's limitations to the Garrity warning. On top of that, you've got the whistleblower. You're correct; it does apply to the state that you're in. The retaliation is its own claim. When you're looking for an attorney, you want to make sure that they've specifically dealt with retaliation with respect to a police department.
Yeah.
So it's very different to go against just a private employer or to go against other departments. They just handle things a little bit differently. The standards are a little bit different, as you can imagine, around internal affairs investigations. On top of that, you've got some more basic things like defamation.
Yeah.
You've got the ability to be able to use those claims to say people were alleging false things that they knew were false. And because, on one hand, if you'd say, hey, your chief went crazy in the department, they were all just trying to CYA after that incident, and they said some things, that'd be a lot harder case. But the fact that they have a pattern and practice of having gone after you for violating the Blue Honor Code or whatnot is going to be more evidence, we call circumstantial evidence, to show that their intent was not to speak to the media openly and honestly about a situation as they viewed it in the time, but rather, and they saw it as an opportunity to bury someone that they wrongfully believed had betrayed the department, when all you're trying to do is make sure that what happened to you doesn't happen to an average citizen.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different things. We're
Yeah.
going to send you those resources as an initial part. I'd say the most important thing is focus on this trial that's coming up. And then right after that, we can definitely circle up. We can help you get you some names on the attorney side, give you some questions to ask the attorneys that you're looking at to make sure they're going to be the best qualified to deal with this situation. And I'll just reiterate, man, thank you for your service in all the different capacities, and thank you for standing up for what's right, because too many people won't do that because of what's happening to you. And we definitely want to get you some help to let this, just fight continue and get the right result.
Bill, thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Caller, thank you for calling. Do you feel like you were heard today?
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you guys and gals taking some time to lend your ear and hear me. So appreciate that.
For sure. We'll follow up with you, Alex. Thank you so much for calling in. Again, thank you for doing your duty and continuing to fight.
Awesome. Thank you again. Have
a good one.
Well, holy shit.
Jesus, that was heavy.
Dude.
You never know what you're going to get.
Cops are, that's like Taylor Swift levels of petty retribution that they
Yeah.
waited.
I mean, that's
him to get
exactly
assaulted.
the kind of shit where you're like, well, this is why cops have a terrible name. Because this is the kind of bullshit that they're pulling on the good guys. This guy was probably a great cop.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple things. First of all, kind of funny. 2019 was when you left the department. I'm like, how much 2020 and 2021 must have felt for him?
Like...
Just watching these marches and rallies, being like, yeah, fuck those guys.
Yeah, that must have been kind of
Sold
satisfying.
the stock at the right time.
Dude,
Oh man, what a and it's the layer on, right? Like they could have done the right thing so many different times, right? But whether through pride or a misbelief that they needed to do more, they've actually kept compounding the problem. I mean, this is how. This, frankly, if you're running a crooked department, this is the exact thing you don't do, right?
Totally.
You don't go, oh, right, this really good guy, the guy who clearly wants to do the right thing.
With the FBI
who
background.
used to be at the FBI.
What?
An accountant, a guy who truly
I've seen that Ben Affleck.
crosses
It's like a
his
literal-
T's and
yeah,
dots his
literally.
I's.
aggressive.
Yeah.
I feel like this entire thing is like we need to legalize psilocybin because I feel like this whole thing.
I'm on board. I don't know what you're saying, but I agree.
I'm in.
Okay, I'm not. You said Freud, I think, or a joke earlier, but it's like it's not hard to do the psychology analysis of this here. Like you have a guy who is so wound up that even making a small joke about something that wasn't even his body, it's a gun. Like it's a gun. It's not even you. But he's so wrapped up in this is an extension of my masculinity that he's willing to point a gun in someone's face. Like, you need therapy. You need treatment. That's the kind of thing psilocybin can help with. It's like, we could have fixed this with an afternoon, one therapy session, and an apology. And we're ruining multiple people's lives now.
It's also like if he's willing to do that to another cop, we kind of
If he does
noted
that to a white guy,
yeah, what the hell do you think is happening on the street?
Yeah, what do you think is happening?
Because they're
going to
yell a lot worse things at you.
Right.
And you're not allowed to just enact justice. You are not that department.
Right. If
your job is to bring them in. That's
if a
it.
joke in the station with a fellow officer leads to a gun in your face, what is happening to the average mom who gets pulled over and is having a bad day and back talks a
What's
little
happening?
everyone would take his side. It's one thing to have a flare-up moment,
Well, not
Right.
anymore.
none of us are above.
Hopefully
I mean, it's worse than anything I've ever done. But that everyone would hear that and then sober up and read the facts of it and go, nah, still on the pea shooter side.
I think the worst part to me is the other officers watching that and then being like, no, we need to protect that person. That person. They saw more of themselves in that guy than the guy getting the gun in their face.
It's the idea that snitching is the ultimate evil. Right. It's like, oh, hey, I might be a rapist, but I'm no snitch. Right. It's like that idea that like gets into people's heads where like snitching is the worst thing that you can do. And like I've heard of that in the prison system. I didn't realize it was also true in some police departments. So that's like
it's a tribalistic. It's like an insane version of the tribe where you're like, well, at least they're not those guys, right? Like we'll deal with it internally, and then now you're starting to see this thing where they're doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on going after this guy because he's outside the tribe, ignoring what is right or wrong, right? And these are the arbiters of what is right or wrong.
Right.
lawyers would snitch on lawyers so fast.
They do. We are required to.
What sucks, like what makes me very sad about this whole thing is thinking how many other institutions are built similarly. Cops, we are financially entitled to internal investigations and audits of what they do. This is a department that we have control over. Imagine C-suites, imagine big billionaires. Politicians have this exact same culture.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they have more power and more money than this. These are middle-class people who are doing this kind of stuff.
Did we just become a conspiracy podcast? It took one.
I mean, truly.
I'm agreeing with everything.
There's stuff I've seen in comedy where I've kept my mouth shut, and it's stuff where like someone was in the wrong and someone was in the right, and you just shut up and you don't say a thing about it because you don't want to be that guy. You want to be the guy who is
it's very
go along
quickly,
to get along.
Yeah, very quickly it goes from we're all on the same team to this guy's on the outside now, even though they're protecting the wrongdoer.
One of us versus not, and that's it. That's the only two tribes for these people.
Yeah, and it takes a guy like Alex Murphy who goes, you know what? I don't care. I don't care what's going to happen to me. We got to go do the right thing. Who will finally upend the system?
It's so disappointing because that's exactly the right kind of person to be in law enforcement.
Yes,
and he couldn't manage, and like that's awful.
It's ridiculous.
He kind of reminds me of Snowden honestly. Like,
Yeah.
now that I'm thinking about like the fact pattern and the entire thing that he went through, and
Yeah.
like I think in 10 or 20 years, we already look at it differently, right? But
Right.
like in another 10 or 20 years, you're gonna be like, oh man, I wish we had 5 more Snowden type people.
Yeah.
I wish we had 5 more of these. You know, if you have a crazy legal story and you want to talk to some lawyers anonymously for free, call us.
Wait, we're not getting paid?
Nothing at all. I don't know how we're gonna pay for it, to be honest.